much for coming on the show today.
Hello. Thanks for having me. I'm so excited.
For our listeners, you can't see it, but Megan is holding a microphone in her hand like she's going to sing us a tune. I love it so much. You're just very embodied.
Yeah, I feel like this is the perfect setting for what we're going to talk about because I'm holding a microphone, which is definitely part of the Pretty Awkward brand. And I'm actually visiting my dad in Las Vegas. We live in Las Vegas half the year, but I'm staying with him a few days. And there's like a Harry Potter shrine behind me, which is also part of the brand. So it's just perfect. It's all wonderful.
Well, actually, speaking of the brand, I think that's a great place to start because I'm not going to give a spoiler here. So why don't you share with our listeners how the Pretty Awkward brand came to be?
Yeah, totally. I love this question because I just think even asking that question, it's like, what brand? What are you talking? Did you say that right? So it's really fun to talk about this. So my Pretty Awkward brand really came to be, I would say, back in 2017. Before 2017, I was in network marketing. I'm still technically network marketing, but I was actively building. And in 2017, I just realized I wanted more streams of income. I saw, how while network marketing is incredible, so much of it was dependent on the company and their policies and procedures and everything. And I just had learned so much. And I was like, I need to take this information somewhere and I can't just do it here. And so I started to expand in my own business. And I branched into health and fitness coaching because that's what I was doing in the network marketing company, even though really what I was doing is business coaching. I thought, oh, it's health related. So that quickly changed, but I started doing that. And what I found was, you're taught see success, emulate it, copy it, right? And so I was following the top fitness influencers, the people who were, very successful coaches, and essentially trying to emulate them in my own way, of course. But just like anything, when we basically take something and then try to just like add our own words or tweak it this way, it still is very much theirs. And it still felt very weird.
Completely.
And at the time, this is still a thing, but at the time, this was back in 2017, it was very, very popular to do what's called the booty pose or the belfie, as they say, which is basically you twist your whole body in this way that's just not possible for most humans. And it makes you look very flattering, right? It's a very flattering pose. It's incredibly hard to do. And for me, it felt so awkward and just so inauthentic. And I would take these pictures and that's what you're supposed to do. And I was like, if this is how I have to do my business, I don't want to do it. I don't want to do this anymore. And as silly as that sounds, it was literally what every single fitness coach was doing to bring in clients, was doing this pose, which is so ridiculous when I say it out loud. And there was one time that I filmed myself doing this because I was told, film yourself and then you'll take screenshots of the best poses, which is actually a very good tip for anyone wanting photos. It's still to this day, I think, a great way to get good photos. And I was watching the video back to screenshot and I was like, this is so ridiculous. The funniest video, I was with my really good friend at his apartment and his cat's jumping up behind me and he's like laughing at me trying to do this pose. I said, you know what? I'm going to post this video instead of the actual picture and just call out how ridiculous this is, and not like shaming the fitness industry because some women do it super confidently and they're meant to do it. But that wasn't me. And so I said, like, I'm just going to call out how ridiculous this is. Does anyone else feel really awkward doing this? And it went viral for my page. And from that post, I got so many, not only did it go viral for my page and it grew my page, but I got so many messages and so much connection points, which resulted in many clients and quickly resulted in me realizing I'm not meant to do fitness coaching. I blew up my network marketing business because of business coaching. And so I quickly switched, but that's literally when the Pretty Awkward brand was born. And I just kind of, the real essence of that word is business is awkward, right? Especially when you're getting started. And I want people to be able to be 100% themselves and still see success. And so it's like, let's find your Pretty Awkward. How can you leverage what makes you unique, makes you different, and actually make that your brand instead of trying to hide it and put on this filter and this curation. And back then, it wasn't as popular to do. I think right now, as we're moving into 2022, it's definitely non-curation, having more of a real feed and all of that is very popular, which is amazing. It's a great shift. But back then it wasn't. It was like beautiful feed. Everything was so filtered. And so what I was doing was kind of unique for the time. And that's my goal. I want people to build their business with a completely unique brand, being themselves, because you can sustain that. You can't sustain pretending you're someone else. So
Right.
that's how
Right.
it was born. I know that was a long story.
Got it. No, it's so good. I love it. I love it. So I have a couple of questions around this. The first one is, okay, yes, I want to build a business. I believe you. I can be successful and be me.
Yeah.
How do I give myself permission or uncover what does actually make me uniquely me? Do you have a
Yeah.
process around that?
I do. I love that question. And I actually sat down in 2019. This idea came to me because I developed my unique coaching method process, it's called. Basically because I looked at a lot of my clients and myself who had like just a shift and everything took off for them. It was
Yeah.
like it wasn't a specific hack. It wasn't a specific like strategy. It was them 100% owning exactly what you just said. And so I kind of analyzed, I was like, there's some method to this madness. It didn't happen for one person, it happened for many. And so I did create a formula because I realized we were going through this framework. So I can totally walk you through that. It's
Yeah, that'd be great.
very, the beautiful thing is it's super simple. It's not hard. It just takes a lot of consistency and time.
And I'm gonna guess also self-trust, which we'll
100%.
probably get into that. So let's hear the framework and then have that conversation, right?
Yeah, totally. No,
Okay.
that's definitely a huge piece of it. So I kind of break it into 4 parts, and the first 2 are more like about you, and the second 2 are more about your expertise and your
Mhm.
audience, because you can't just be like, "Hey, I'm a personality and this is me," but it has nothing to do with your business. Unless you want to just be an influencer. That's fine.
Right.
But I
Mhm.
think everyone listening here is building a business, wants to sign clients. And so that's the disconnect I do see people have. So just to preface it, we're going to go over 2 more personality-based things and then 2 more expertise-based things. And the 4 together is what makes that beautiful combination. So the first is your personality, and a couple leading questions for you to write down and really journal on is how do you want to make people feel when they're with you? When they leave a conversation with you, what do you want them to feel? What do you want them to think? And you probably can experience this with people in your life. There's certain people, for good or for bad, that you leave a conversation and you're like, I'm exhausted. And I don't know if I want to do that again, or I need to wait a few months. And then there's some people you're super energized by. You have one conversation with them and you're inspired and you're lit up and you're laughing and all those things. So how do you want people to leave a conversation with you? And this will extend to how do you want them to leave your social media page? How do you want them
Yeah.
to leave your story? So it'll expand, but I really encourage you to just think of your true real life, like actually people that you will see in person. The next question, and this is something I encourage you to actually ask the people who are closest to you in your life, your friends, your family. And I encourage you to ask people who know the very real you, not the Instagram version or social media version, because we all put a little bit of a filter on, even when we're 100% ourselves. But those people who will be really honest with you, and ask them, what are like 3 qualities that you would say represent me? How do you feel when you leave a conversation with me? What do you
Mhm.
think of when you think of me? What song comes to mind? What colors come to mind? Some of these kinds of questions. And write that down. And again, ask them to not sugarcoat it. Don't put a censor on, let them like really just go all in. And then number 3 is really thinking about how can you make like it's basically positioning you as your brand, not a curated perfect version of you. And again, we'll kind of dive into this in the other steps, but the first part is your personality. And again, you're going to get lots of words. So quirky, fun, silly, doesn't take self too seriously, motivated, inspiring. When I actually created the Pretty Awkward brand, while we had the idea of it, we didn't solidify it until after I sent a survey out to friends, to family, to past clients, to current
Yeah.
clients. And I got all these words. And so I really encourage you to do that. You can send your own survey out and get all these words. Then you're not guessing at what brand you want. You're not saying, I like the color purple, so purple is going to be my brand color. And you're actually doing it backed on data.
Mhm.
So that's the first step. Second is, in addition to your personality, like just who are you, how do people describe you, is your lifestyle. And this is where you'll really connect, especially if you're a personal brand, you'll really connect with your clients on a different level. So are you a mom? Are you a wife? Do you have specific hobbies? Are you a super ant? That's a huge way I identify with a lot of people in my audience. Are there for hobbies, for example, I'm in musical theater, so it's something I'm constantly connecting with people on. I've literally had actors hire me because they're building a business, but they also like that I get that part of their life.
Yeah.
What routines do you have that are like, you're very loyal to? And then how is this similar to your client, those connection points, or the client that you would like to take on, right? This part's really great because it's great for metaphors within your expertise.
Completely.
So for example, I had a retreat this weekend and I did this exercise, and one of my clients is a mom and she's a fitness coach. And so she's created a whole new content plan on how to compare motherhood to fitness.
Right.
And she's so excited about it because her clients, who are mostly mothers, are going to so understand that and connect with that versus someone who's just talking about weight loss in general, right?
Completely. And there's just this other layer of trust. I immediately now feel like I'm in the club with you.
Yes.
Right? Because there's this other layer of trust, or this other like background music playing.
Yes, totally.
Of our greatest hits album, right?
Yeah.
Whenever I talk about Keith Morrison, because I love Dateline, not healthy, but anytime I mention Keith Morrison, I will get DMs from people being like, "I'm so glad you mentioned Keith Morrison because I
love
agree." It. Yeah. Shout out to Keith Morrison. We love your voice. Okay, moving on.
No, but that's such a great example, and it's something that like Keith Morrison's not going to be your brand necessarily, right? But it's going to be something that people can have a connection point on,
right. Or a metaphor that I draw.
Exactly.
Right? And then now you feel like, oh, I totally get her because no one else talks about Keith Morrison. And yes, this Keith Morrison metaphor you're drawing completely resonates with how I feel when I'm selling to clients.
Exactly. It lands. And it's like a concept that was a concept that they didn't get, they finally get, and they connect you to that person who made that connection. They're like, oh, wow, now I understand it because Dallas helped me get that connection. So I love metaphor, and I think it's so powerful. So that exercise will help you for sure. And just as another little example, we talked about this a lot this weekend, so I wanted to bring this up, kind of perfect timing that we're doing this after this whole big weekend I had. But Harry Potter is a huge thing, one connection point for me, for my clients. But it's not like you're going to go to my sales pages and it's like brown and what colors are these? Like brown and red. Those are not my colors. Those don't represent me. You know what I mean? So I think sometimes the only reason I want to say this is because I see people take it to such a literal extreme. And it's not like, you don't come to my page, those aren't the colors. Harry Potter's not all over. In fact, it's nowhere to really be found, except I have some metaphors, or maybe I'll just throw a lightning bolt in there. And it's more of the essence. So I think the reason I always reference Harry Potter is it's really one of those brands that a lot of people who felt other feel accepted and feel, for lack of a better term, normal or welcomed, or, you know what I mean? They're like, there's a community that people will love me for me. And I would just watch the reunion, the 20th anniversary. And it was like people felt like they were coming home, and it was kind of like a band of misfits in a beautiful way. That's what I think of the Pretty Awkward brand as. It's like, you can be 100% yourself, and we're going to help you make money based off of that. Right. And so it's more of the essence of the brand versus the literal colors and all of that. So I just wanted to make that pretty clear.
Thank you for clarifying that. And what I'm hearing you say here is this piece is about identifying the things that light me up that are also a shared experience with my audience. And now I use those as metaphors or as a wink and a nod in my own content, where now it creates a deeper sense of belonging. Right? Because you're in on the joke, if you will. Yeah, I get it.
100%. And especially with the way content's going with, if we're just speaking specifically Instagram, with Reels or TikToks and short form, very low attention content, we need to get people's attention. And so if you can say something in a way that's also entertaining, like edutainment, right? Educating them and entertaining them, you're going to win, right? You're going to capture their attention. You don't have to be a performer to do this. Most of my clients aren't performers. Some of them are, and they're doing this. So I just want to make that clear too. But 100%, it's a great connection point. So all that's wonderful. But if you just do that, then you're basically a personality and an influencer, which again, nothing wrong with that. If you want to just do affiliate marketing and all that, that's wonderful. But if you're trying to sell high ticket services, coaching, you've got to actually also be positioned as an expert too. And so that's the biggest piece of the puzzle that comes in. So the next part is your expertise.
Yeah.
And when you're listing this, and I have some leading questions that I think could be helpful, you want to think about this with the offers in mind that you want to enroll people in. So this can naturally lead into your offer, and can almost have you be selling without launching, I should say. So I think I have 4 questions.
Sure. Great.
So I'll just rattle them off. So a couple questions to write down and answer. What do you really want to be known for in terms of your expertise? So if someone said, oh, Dallas, I always think of incredible client attraction. Megan, I always think of branding and unique coaching method. So-and-so, I think of sales. Like they have this association that they know this is one of your like PowerPoints, right? Second question, what could you rant about all day? What could you just like, oh no, watch out. She has the mic. She's never going to stop talking, right? They're going to go off on this topic. The next question, what are your favorite topics to talk about within your field? And I say favorite because I do find when I ask that first question, a lot of people write down things that they happen to be really great at, but they don't love. They're like, oh, I've always just been really great at this, so I can talk about this. But I mean those topics that you're like, oh, I love talking about this. This fills me up. This like really lights me up, right? So write down those. And then number 4, what are the offers that you're selling this year, and what specific expertise do you need to highlight from them? Like they need to know, okay, if I'm going to sell a course, let's say on sales strategies, just an easy example, then I need to be positioned as a sales expert before I sell that. So those 4 questions. And like I said before, this is going to help you start selling without actively launching constantly. If you're consistently putting out content around these expertises, around the problems that you're solving for people, you can drive them into a free training or prompt them to DM you. And so that can start a conversation. You don't have to just rely on the constant open close cart. Does that make sense?
Completely. Yep.
Awesome. Sweet. And so within this one, I actually have a little bit of a client exercise, like to come up with it. I call it my top 3 client exercise. If you want me to really quickly share that too.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. And so this, when you're doing this, I just encourage you to do it with like pen and paper. I find it's easier when you can like write it down so that it like really sinks in. But what I want you to do is write down your top 1 to 3 clients, right? I encourage you to do 3 if you can, and answer these questions. Number 1, what did they come to you with? Like, what was that catalyst that made them sign up? And I encourage you to think more so of the moments. Like, not everyone has a rock bottom moment, right? They're not always going to like have to hit that before they invest in your help. But what was that moment that made them go, this is it. I need this help. I can't do it on my own anymore, right? So write that down. The next question, why did they pick you over someone else? Why? How are you different? What skills did you have that they really liked? What about your testimonials spoke to them? What about your content? And if you don't know, ask them.
Yes.
It's so funny how many people are like, well, I don't know. I'm like, just ask them.
You have their phone number?
Yeah, right. You've been working with them.
Yeah.
And actually, the times I've done this, because I literally was like, I actually don't know. Let me go ask them. It feels really great, first of all, as the coach, but also they're like so excited to help you with this. So I promise you, they're not going to think it's weird. Just say you're doing a little bit of, you absolutely adore them and you want more clients like them. And so you want to know what prompted them to sign up with you. It's a win-win.
And what I'm really hearing you say that I want to underscore for our listeners is specificity is more powerful here. So I heard you say like what specific moments, and maybe even if they could mention a live that you did or a post that you did or something that was said, rather than more general, like I like your philosophy and your approach. We want to really get granular.
100%. And because exactly hit the nail on the head, because then you can keep duplicating that, you know what I mean? And it's so funny. A great example of that is I did that, and I had 2 people say that they saw, which is just funny. They saw my, I do these singing videos. I don't know if you've ever seen any of them. I basically I rewrite the lyrics to Disney songs and sing lessons on business. And 2 of them said they signed up after that. Like they'd seen some of my other stuff, but that was like the thing that made them go, okay, I'm ready. And so
Yeah.
I mean, I dove deeper into why, because it's like, it has to be valuable. You're not going to sign up just because I was singing if it's a business program.
Mhm.
But that was like really eye opening. I was like, okay, this got their attention. There was a lesson in the song. And so I kept doing more of that. And that really helped me step into that. So definitely get those
Mhm.
specific moments.
Great.
And a question that you can put in your application if you do, pre-qualifying before you're getting on calls is, why are you applying to work with me? Like, what about me interests you? So I have my question here I can read, but it says, why do you feel that this program and having Meg as your coach might be the right fit to really get your business off the ground? What about this program or Meg appeals to you? And I can't tell you how much clarity I've gotten from this question in my applications. So much content from this. So you'll know this is what they've seen. And like you said, if you can even ask specific moments. So I even put it in my applications and people really
Yeah,
like filling that out. Yeah.
that's great.
Okay, great. And then the next quick question as you're doing this exercise. So the last one we said was, why did they pick you over someone else? And then number 3, what was that light bulb moment for the client? This will help
Mhm.
you hone in on your expertise more and what you should be educating on. What did you do with them in that light bulb moment? What tool or exercise or question or strategy did you use in that moment? Because that is something that you could maybe up the ante on and become more known for,
Yeah.
right? Number 4, what was the result? What were the client's results? What they experience? And then number 5, how did you make them feel throughout the process? And again, ask them, did they feel included? Did they feel accepted? Did they feel seen? Did they feel safe? You want to get words like that because that's really important, especially for high ticket coaching. How are they going to feel during this experience?
And I
Um,
wanna just say something to that point. If listeners, if you ask these questions and the feedback you get is, "I felt really challenged,"
mm,
or "You were really good, I was triggered. You were really good at pushing my buttons," those answers are the right answers for you. All the examples that Megan you just gave were very, like,
yes.
inclusive and warm and fuzzy. That's your brand and that's your program, but
Yeah.
the key here is the right answers are the ones your favorite clients give you, not the ones that sound the
Yeah.
nicest, right?
No, that's actually so true. And actually, now that you say that, like I do this every time I have clients, and one of them was like, you make me think outside the box. You don't let me
Yeah,
like rest on my first choice.
yeah.
A
Actually, one way I know I have to hire a coach is if I get pissed off when I read their sales page.
Oh, I love that. I
I'm
love
like, "Okay, I'm sweaty right now and really never wanna see this person's face again, so
yeah,
that means it's time for me to stretch myself." So, it's
that's
just
funny. I
different.
love that. That's a great point. Like as coaches, our job isn't to get people to like us. It's for
Mhm.
us to challenge them. That's the whole point,
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I love that. That's great. So that's your expertise. And there's a lot in there, as you can see, because that's a huge part. So after that, while that's amazing, this is where the unique part comes in. You don't want to just stop there because there's lots of people who are going to have a similar expertise as you, right? So
Yeah.
how do you do it differently? So the 4th step is your unique approach. How do you do it differently from others in your industry or the industry as a whole? So, for example, I use one of my clients as a binge eating coach. She helps women recover and heal from binge eating. And she has a pretty, I'm trying to think of the term for this, but she draws her line in the sand with her approach. Her
Okay.
approach is that therapy does not work and it's neuro reprogramming. And when she's very like, hey, this is my approach, she's gonna get some haters. She's gonna get some people who don't agree. But I've got to tell you, she has signed more clients by being really, really strong in her approach because she's the people who therapy didn't work for them. They are like, I need you.
Right.
And they're all about it. So this is where you don't want to be fearful of um, getting a little bit of criticism for your approach, as long as it's true to you and you're not just trying to be, combative to be combative or divisive to be divisive. You never want to do that. It's got to be true to you. And for her, that's very true to her, and that's her
Right.
process. And it just made the world of difference. And literally, people have said, I chose you because of your approach, like those actual words, which is pretty great. So how do you do it differently? What are your philosophies versus others? And I would even take it like, say, sales, for example, just to keep that same example. How do some people do sales? Like, do they follow a very specific script? They recommend you read it verbatim. And do you have the complete opposite? No script, very intuitive, but with some guidelines, whatever it is. Like, that's those are the kind of things you want to really let your audience know
Right.
publicly.
Inside the Hive, we call this taking a stance and really just
Mhm.
clarifying your stance. So that's
Totally.
infusing your values,
Yep.
really getting clear on where your industry might seem broken or backward or outdated.
Totally. 100%.
And I call it like, if you're going to make a point, if you're going to take up space on the internet,
Mhm.
make a point worth making. Otherwise, you're just contributing to more noise. So that's what I hear you
Yes.
saying here. This, like, your approach is about where you, like, a hill you're willing to die on.
Yes, I love
Yeah.
that.
Okay.
I love that, and that's, it's no longer people. I think people call it like vanilla marketing.
Hmm.
Like, especially now that more and more people are coming online, it's not saturated at all. We just need to get more creative, and part of being creative is being really honest and being blunt and being brave.
Yeah.
And I know we'll talk about that in a minute. Is like sounds easy, but it's not all the time. So
Right.
we can definitely talk about that. And part of an exercise that I do with clients to help them with this is writing their stand for, stand against list. And so I
Hmm.
actually recommend doing this first with your stand against. I find it so much easier for people to write what they stand for when they put. It's so easy to say what we stand against, and so it's the opposite is what we stand for usually.
Yeah.
Um, and so just writing out some things, and this could be 3 to 5 things, however many you want. What do you stand against that you see in your industry? And again, that sales was an example. I hate sales scripts. I hate robotic ways to do sales, et cetera, right? But there's probably many, many more within your expertise. So go back, look at your expertise. What do you see people in your industry doing that you really can't stand?
Right.
And then what's the opposite of that? And that can become one of your mantras, essentially, like you kind of said, one of your values and how you run your
Hmm.
business. And you're going to notice a lot of these should overlap with your personal values. Like it shouldn't be very different
No.
because you're you and your business is going to be an extension of who you are. So that's a really, really great exercise. And it's great, again, for content ideas and for polarization in a way that's genuine, not just for the sake of doing it.
Mhm.
And this is how you start to become more than just how you help people, right? Yes,
Yeah.
maybe again, maybe you help people with sales, but also you have this philosophy. And that's when people buy into you as a brand because they're like, wow, it's not just this robotic person who can help me with this thing, but they also stand for something I so believe in.
Yeah.
And that connection is just it's a beautiful combination.
Yeah. Or
Um,
they see the world in the same way that I do. Right.
exactly.
Yeah, that's
Exactly.
great. That's
And
great.
and this, like, just to make a big asterisk, this will lose you followers.
The
um,
point. That's the point.
yeah, exactly. And some people get so nervous, but the ones that aren't about your approach and who don't believe in it, one, they wouldn't probably buy from you, or they would not thrive in your program, and you would not enjoy the relationship, right?
Mhm.
Like, we want to attract people who have similar values. Of course, we want to attract a diverse group of people, but if we don't have the same inner core values, it's going to be really tough
Yeah.
to coach them. Um, and
I
so that
think
really
smart marketing is all about, you've done your job when the viewer, the audience, right, has made a decision,
yeah.
not when they've decided yes. That's not
Mhm.
necessarily smart marketing.
Yeah.
Smart marketing is when the decision is crystal clear for people.
Yeah, 100%. I love that. No, 100%. So that's great. Um, and I kind
Mhm.
of like close this approach part out with why do this? Because a lot of people are like, well, what will developing this unique approach do? And I've really come to three main things
Mhm.
that really help. What's the purpose of doing all this, right? One is it's going to help you attract truly ideal clients, right? I really, really ideal, not just anyone who can afford your services and feels like they need that transformation, but really people you love working with. When you do that, they thrive with you, they refer you, and
Yeah.
they re-sign. And so
Mhm.
that's huge. Like so many of my clients now, after doing this, have a very good referral based business because of that, because it's just
Yeah.
natural byproduct. So that's number one. Number two, it's going to help your content stand out from everyone else with a similar expertise, right? And then number three, this will help you compare less because you truly can see, you're like, wow, I truly am different from everyone else in my industry because of this 4-step combo. No one's going to have the same personality, lifestyle, expertise, and unique approach. And
Right.
so it just honestly, for me personally, this has helped me really lessen that comparison game that is inevitable at some extent, but it really lessens it. So
Yeah.
those are
I
like
can
the
see
three
that.
main reasons. Mhm.
Here's what's coming up for me as I listen to this approach. And thank you for walking us so thoroughly through it. We began this conversation around how to be authentically you, right?
Mhm.
And I'm sitting here, I think you're about halfway through, and I wrote down, you could take the lazy long road or the intentional efficient path. So
Mm.
on its face, are you kidding? I don't want to go through these 4 steps. I want to ask people. I have to do all this work to figure out what I stand for.
Yeah.
It's a hell of a lot easier to just take my mentor's 5-step system and switch the words around
Mhm.
and now use pink in my brand instead of neutral tones and feel different enough. Like that feels like it would be so much faster.
Yeah. Mhm.
But it's a quick start with a slow growth, and probably not a strong finish. Or we can take this very embodied, authentic, data driven approach in the beginning,
Mhm.
really load the car up with a full tank of gas so that we can drive faster if we want to and definitely travel further. So I guess I want to make this point for anyone listening thinking, can't I just like post? Can't I just get some Canva templates and make a few
Yeah.
posts? Or like, I
Mhm.
think I'm clear enough. And anyone who wants to bypass this work, do not be fooled that there is a faster path.
Mhm.
The fast path is this intentional path. And in action, it seems slower when you look at it step by step or day to day. But when you take a step back and look at the months or the years that
Mhm.
get wasted because you're starting over every time you work with a different mentor who has a different system, you're starting from scratch, you're like doing a lot of work, but you're not moving forward. So
Mm.
I guess I'm making a strong case for everything that you just
Yeah.
shared,
Yeah.
because it
No.
is work. And
Mhm.
that's what building a business, especially one that is authentic to you, that's what it involves is work and
100%.
intentionality.
I love that you like really honed that in because like I said, 2017 is when the brand came to be. It's 2022 and it's thriving and only growing.
Yeah.
That didn't happen because of the quick fixes. It happened because I did this work unintentionally at first, but also
Mm.
not because it's funny you say that because I did that. I did that whole copy your mentor thing when I was in network marketing. That was pretty much what we were encouraged to do. And I'm like, I'm a great student. I will listen and I will copy.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
one, it pretty much didn't work as far as like engagement goes. Like no client, no content or attraction marketing was happening. I would post something, very little would happen from it. I did not get
Mhm.
clients from that. I did have a lot of success because I hustled so hard.
Right. Yeah.
And that's the difference. It's not that it was hustle just to get the sale in a way that was so unsustainable. I was like, I
Mhm.
cannot send this many messages and do this and convince and all these things. Whereas once I started switching to this method, I was like, wow, it's going to take a little bit of time to build, but way less energy hustle.
Yeah.
I don't need to do that anymore. I can just be patient and trust that there is going to be this domino effect. So I love that you said that because I've truly experienced both sides of the coin. I can
Mhm.
tell you the second side's way better. It's way
Yeah.
more sustainable. And again, you don't feel I'm sure anyone listening who's done that, which no shame, I've done it many
We've
times.
all been there.
We've
Yeah.
all been there. I felt this like pit in my stomach. I felt
Mhm.
like, oh gosh, something feels really off because I'm sure one of your values is authenticity and is being yourself, right?
Mhm.
And so when you're going against that, it feels really uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And so I just encourage you, like you said so beautifully, like really look at, is it the faster track or is it actually going to be you starting over and over and over
Yeah.
every single
It's
time?
actually no track. It is not,
No
you're not
track.
on a track.
Very true.
So inside the Hive, we have a lot of members who are A+ students. They love following directions,
Hmm.
right? They're in the program because they're learning something they haven't done before.
Hmm.
So I want to know what feedback you have for the coach who's building a business and looking for that balance between applying what their mentor teaches them and actually making it their own. And I think more specifically, I'm asking, like, how do I know
Mm.
when I'm in resistance, when it's like not pure motivation,
Yeah.
and when it's actually my authentic expression coming forward, whether that's to completely follow what I'm being told to do or to completely throw it away?
Yeah. Ooh, I love this question. And I hope the answer makes sense because I don't know if there's a super direct
Yeah,
process like my 4-step
totally.
process.
Right.
um, would be great for this because it is very intuitive. But there's always something I say to clients, or even I apply this to myself when I'm working with a mentor. I'm like, okay,
Mhm.
I'm gonna feel if a mentor tells me something and I have this feeling in my gut, it's usually either like a scared feeling or just like, oh, I don't know about that. It's usually either it's not right for me and it's just not aligned with me, or I'm just scared because it's
Yeah.
like the next level.
Mhm.
It's like, oh, and so fear, I can always work through. We can always work through that. We can always there's exercises, there's tons of stuff to work through fear.
Totally. Yep.
But the other one is like, it's just probably not right. And I'm sure as you're listening, like you're like, yep, I've definitely felt that. And so I just think we don't identify that those are the two options usually. So just
Mhm.
being aware, like going, okay, I'm feeling this, like, I'm not sure about this. This feels a little wonky. Great example is a lot of people have a very polarizing view on DM messages. Should
Right.
you do them? Right.
Mhm.
Some people are like, nope, don't DM. It's wrong. Some people are like, copy paste and send the same one to a million people. And some people have that more middle ground. That's personally where I am, which is I think DM messages can be a beautiful way to grow your business, but it can't be copy paste. It can't be cold messaging, pitching, anything like that. And so if your mentor says, I want you to go message 20 people a day with this message, and you're like, oh, this feels like a really weird feeling. Is that me not thinking this is right for me? Or is that me being fearful? Again, if that was me, it would be that's not right for me. Not that
Right.
it's not fearful. So
Yeah.
if that makes sense, like I can go, how do I say, okay, there's validity in what they're saying, but how do I make it mine? Maybe
Yeah.
instead of sending those cold messages, I do 10 instead of 20, and they're truly authentic responses to that person's content. And I'm actually engaging with them as a human.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Like it's a
It
compromise.
does. So our approach is really similar to this,
Cool.
which is, okay, I'm getting this advice and I'm having feelings about the advice.
Yeah.
So sometimes for me, I can't actually tell
Mm,
if something isn't aligned because it's not values aligned,
yeah.
or it isn't aligned because it scares me to death.
Mm,
I actually can't tell until I've tried it.
okay.
So
Interesting.
what I will often do is say, all right, I'm going to make this process my own. And the first step to making it my own is to follow the steps
Mm,
as they're provided for me. So I actually know what part of this makes sense and what part of it is just scary.
yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So, and then after I go through the process, I feel like I have more information rather than just my emotions
Yeah.
around what's going to work and what isn't going to work. But I think the intention is the same. The practice is just a little bit different.
Totally. And I
Yeah.
love that. I think that's actually probably more realistic too, because it is probably hard to tell. And I'm probably saying that from someone who's been in it for on the other side. So now I
Mm,
can trust my intuition, but even 2 years ago, I probably couldn't, you know what I mean?
right.
So it's a
Yeah.
really good point. And I think even to that point, just knowing that like one thing a mentor a long time ago told me this and always stuck with me, nothing in business is ever an emergency. And I truly believe that.
Completely.
I'm like, we're not operating on people. Like I literally have a friend who does that. She's a
Mhm.
physician's assistant. What she does is life and death. What I do isn't, right? Like if I try something and I do a process and I'm like, that didn't feel great, no one's hurt. We're okay. So
Completely.
I
Yep.
think just like what you said is such a good point. Like do it, try it, and then evaluate. Everyone's gonna be okay. You can always do it again. So
And another thing I want to underscore about this is by trying it, let's just say it's 6 steps, right? We can actually break it down and say, oh, it was step 2. It was that part that didn't work for me. I
totally.
see this a lot with coaches who try our client surge system. It'll be like, oh, I tried client surge and it didn't work. I'm like, really? The whole thing just
Yeah.
didn't work? And then
Yeah.
if we break down each phase, we uncover pretty quickly that their messaging was off,
Yeah.
or they actually didn't do step 4, or they need more practice with sales conversations, which is a very different solution than
Totally.
going out and trying and replacing the whole engine of the car rather than just fixing a valve,
Oh,
right?
100%. And that's how like new formulas, new frameworks get invented. No one's like,
Mm.
I don't know that phrase exactly, but it's pretty much like there's actually no original idea. Everything
Right.
is stemmed off of something else at this point.
Mhm.
And so, like you said, maybe you skip step 2, or you rewire step 2 and all of a sudden you have a completely different framework and that's your unique framework. It's just
Yeah.
different. It's slightly based on someone else's. And that's how people have these unique frameworks. How else would we do it, right? Like we need to start somewhere. So it's a great point.
Yeah. All
Mhm.
right. I want to wrap this conversation up with one more question, which
Yeah.
is, and we've touched on it a little bit, but you have been able to, from the outside looking in, Megan, it
Mhm.
looks like you have been able to just very confidently and wholeheartedly embrace what's weird about you
Yeah.
and use it to your benefit. What first step or what encouragement do you have for a coach listening who is still working on their own self-acceptance
Totally.
or working on really releasing the judgments they have around who they authentically are
Yeah.
so that they can begin to give themselves permission to really lean into this wonderful process you shared with us today?
Yeah. Oh, therapy. But really,
Yeah. Yes, right.
definitely, like, joking but not joking, actually a huge,
Mhm.
huge thing because I think we all experience that, but especially I love that you asked this question because it's definitely something I talk about a lot. Easier said than done. Just be yourself.
Yeah.
But what if you were shamed for being yourself? What if you were made fun of your whole life for being yourself? That's not an
Mhm.
easy thing to do. So I definitely actually that's a real tip, but also is community. This has been
Oh, that's
I think
good. Yeah.
why I've been able to do this is when I was in 2017, when I did that, it took me a long time to admit how ridiculous this felt. And I talked about it with my community, people who were in the
Mhm.
industry with me. And I felt like I had them behind me. I was like, they will go to bat for me so that when I post that video, if I have people hating on it, they will be back there defending me. And they will be like,
Mhm.
you go, girl. You know what I mean? Like stuff like that. And just that alone gave me that confidence that, hey, if I flop and I fall, I have these people to support me, which
Mhm.
is just such a great feeling. And also, and not that I recommend doing this because I really think it's important to keep what we're doing as a learning experience. But say you do a live and you go in it, this perspective, you're like, I've gone through the process. I feel like I'm being me. And you're like, oh my gosh, I hate that. That was horrible. You can always delete it.
Delete it. Yeah. Yes.
And I don't want people to because I think it's good to have like I have my content from when I started and it's embarrassing, but it's also like humbling and look where we started. Okay. But you can. That's the great thing is like you can
Mhm.
delete anything you need. So it's just that nice, example. So community, you can always delete it, therapy. And then also is looking for this is a term. I was in a manifestation membership called To Be Magnetic with Lacey Phillips, I believe her name is. So I did not coin this term and she's trademarked it. It's called expanders. And I love how she
Mhm.
puts it is find your expanders, essentially people who have done this that are proof that and done it safely and they've been
Yes.
okay. That proof that you can do it. And I love that. And then she says that's with anything that you want to do, right? And
Yeah.
so who do you know that is unique and different and quirky and it's just so authentically them and has had success, but has also had ups and downs to get there. Like they didn't
Mhm.
just, it wasn't just smooth sailing. Well,
Right.
no one says smooth sailing, but some people make it seem like it's smooth sailing.
Right. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
use those as expanders as proof that it's possible. So
Mm.
those are some ways I would recommend. But I also want to just admit it's a process that it's just going to get easier the more you do it. I definitely was terrified the first few times, the first year, honestly, and
Yeah.
even
Yep.
now, I still get nervous. So
Totally. And so what I'm hearing is two things around this. The first one is this is a process, not an event. You're not just going to
mm,
arrive at the day that you fully accept all of who you are and throw it out there on the interwebs with
yeah,
complete confidence, never second guessing yourself.
yeah,
And then what I got was perhaps there could be a different another layer of intention around this, which is if I'm someone who would love to deepen my own self acceptance,
hmm
I could use what you shared today, Megan, as a personal development exercise. So, part of my process of uncovering what's unique about me and feeling safe to share it is leaning in and doing it wrong
yes.
first, because that's how I'm going to grow.
Totally,
Got it.
100%. You are
Yeah.
you're definitely gonna do it wrong, and like you said, it's never an "Oh, I'm there, I've arrived," like, I
Right.
still because you grow and you evolve, and I'm so different today than I was 2 years ago, and
Yeah.
so I'm finding these new pieces of me, and anytime you have a life change, or especially what's been going on in the world, like that's going to change
Yeah.
everyone. Like
Yeah.
you're going to come up with that new version of you, and it's going to be like, oh, here we go again. But I
Yeah.
promise you, just like anything, a habit, it gets easier and easier and easier to do it.
Yeah. It
Yeah.
does. Well, this has been such a fun conversation. Thank you for bringing your pretty awkwardness to this conversation, but also for really breaking the process down for us. What a valuable exercise you shared. So I'm so grateful you came on the show.
Yeah, I am too. Thank you so much for being here. As someone who's worked with you and
Yeah.
just so value like the time I had in your program, it was just honestly unmatched. So I just was honored to be asked to be here. So I'm so happy to be here. It's like full circle. It's really cool.
Yeah. Super fun. Thanks,
Yeah.
Megan. And thanks everybody for listening. We'll see you back here next week.
Bye.